Good afternoon. Welcome to Fishing for Bees. It's 52 degrees, March 2nd, Grand Rapids, Michigan, about 2:30 in the afternoon. So what I'm doing here is I need to get some frames ready for swarm season. This is the most recent dead out. A lot of times in the spring you can get some super dry frames from your colonies without having to do this. You can just pull them right out at the right time and they'll be dry and nothing in them. But if they have anything in them, I don't want it in my swarm traps as far as at the hanging site. So I'm going to get them robbed out, and I'll just show you what's going on here. I didn't take any of the ones that had a ton of honey, but you see right there. So really this frame just has those two spots, and that's too much for me. The reason why is it just draws the wrong kind of attention. It draws opportunistic foragers in the spring that are looking for resources and not your scouts. So I don't want that in my traps. But one of the things I will recommend if you have new traps that you built this year and you do have some frames like this is get them robbed out in your traps. Just don't get them robbed out at your catch site. All that activity of bees going in and out and robbing this and dropping debris and everything else is scenting your traps. It's wonderful for your traps, especially if they're brand new. It's going to give them scent that you can't provide just by having that bee activity in them and they're robbing it out. So I'm setting this out where I know there's bees, not necessarily for today, but I'm hoping that bees will find it and then all night long come up with a great plan to come here and rob it out. So a couple days it'll be robbed out, might even be robbed out by tomorrow evening. Just check them in the evening when there's no bees. A couple things to keep in mind if you are getting them robbed out in your traps is you don't want to get them robbed out just by your trap entrance hole. So meaning that be the only entrance to your robbing station. That's too constrictive. It draws too much traffic through that small opening and they will fight and they will kill each other. Depending on where you're putting this, you know, if it's your bees by your bee yard, don't put it in your bee yard. You can trigger robbing activity in your bee yard. So away from your bee yard, 100 yards away from your bee yard or in an area that you know there's bees, you can get these robbed out. That is why I have nothing on the bottom in this void, right? There's going to be a lid on it, but there's no constrictive entrance pushing them through a 1-inch or a 2-inch hole where they're going to have to come in contact with each other and fight and kill each other. Every bee right now, in my opinion, is very, very precious. These are the bees that are going to get you to spring. These are the bees that need to survive and be foraging, and I certainly don't want to kill any bees this time of year. I don't want to kill any bees any time of year, but this year they're very precious. So we got a bee on that back wall over there directly under the window. We got another bee investigating. This has only been here a couple minutes. And I'm going to put that lid on it. Give you another look at some frames, I guess, just to give you an idea what we're doing here. This is about the max I'm going to have robbed out. I have some that have double this. At that point, I'm not going to rob it out. I'm going to keep it and use it to boost colonies that I catch. That's a good honey frame to help boost a colony. These are just frames that I want dry. Also, if you are feeding your bees with this, this is minimal, and you need to keep in mind you're only feeding the strong colonies when you're doing this. You're not feeding the weak colonies. This is going to make little dent to their reserves at all, maybe buy them a couple days, but nothing major. And you're not feeding the weak colonies, you're feeding the strong colonies. The weak colonies are still clustered and struggling, and they're not out foraging and doing this type of stuff. These bees that you see here are from the very strong colonies, likely. So yeah, the swarm traps, you rob them out in your swarm traps, give them scent. Don't do it on site. Do it away from your colonies so you don't trigger any robbing. And get them super dry. Again, the reason why I want them super dry is because, first of all, I don't want pests. Second, I don't want that robbing activity. I don't want those foragers in there. I want the scouts in there. If you put completely dry bait comb in there, those foragers will know it's there. they'll come and look and they'll quickly leave. If there's nothing of value in there, they will not hang out. The scouts hang out, the scouts investigate. So put frames in there that are of no value to the foragers and only of significant value to your swarms and your scouts. You can hang it in the catch location. I don't like doing that. I like to keep it away from the catch location, get it robbed out. And then also, if you do rob them out in your swarm traps, bang out your swarm traps. They're going to be a lot of bits and debris and stuff inside of there, and you don't want that in there. You just want the dry brood frame. So bang out the bits and debris that only attracts pests and activity that you don't want at your swarm traps. You want dry brood comb, no resources in your swarm traps. Listen, this is my opinion. Certainly you can catch after you've had frames robbed out at the catch site. Unfortunately, I just feel that it takes too long for that activity to die down, right? So you can hang these at your catch site, you can get these frames robbed out, then they're completely dry. Of course, they have bits and debris inside there. And then you'll get the scouts and then you'll catch. But that's days. And when I hang these in the trees, I want it to immediately be attractive to scouts and swarms, not to opportunistic foragers that are out robbing. So this is going to be shot over a couple days, and I'll give you an update tomorrow. We already got bees coming around, as you've seen, checking it out, and we'll show you the activity that'll come after this. Okay, so here we are the next day, Sunday, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 65 degrees. So this is the activity you get when you have resources in your swarm trap. Granted, I know this isn't a swarm trap. This is just to show you what it looks like if you hang a swarm trap and you have any kind of resources. I'm talking even the smallest little rainbows of honey at the top of the frame. If there is not much in the environment, this is what you get. Even if there is stuff in the environment, you're going to get opportunistic robbers. You're not going to get scouts. So when you hang your trap and you have resources in it and you get, you know, activity around it and you get all excited, if there's resources in your trap, it's not scouting. That's pretty safe to say. And also, scouts are looking for a nice neighborhood. They're not looking to move into a fight. So you could get scouts even from the same colony that are robbing this out, and they're going to come by because they don't do the same thing, right? Foragers are different than scouts, and they're going to be like, yeah, that's not a good location, and they're just going to pass right by it. Also, this type of activity takes a long time to stop. Once it starts, I believe that this trap or this box is scented with a pheromone that indicates, you know, here's where the fight's at, here's where the robbing's at. That's completely different than what you're putting in your swarm trap as far as a scent, as far as lemongrass or the brood comb, the dry brood comb. So it's got to be dry. Can you catch after this type of activity? Yes. I'm in Michigan. My window for catching is very, very limited as far as getting those big swarms early in the season. Sure, I can catch all the way into August, but those aren't the swarms that I'm looking for, and those are the ones that are a lot more difficult. So this is robbing activity. This is not scouting. We knew this wouldn't be scouting because it's not that time of the year, but I'm doing this video to show you, if you hang your traps with any kind of resources, this is what you're going to end up with. Look at the video earlier, right? There was no debris, there was no bits, there was no anything when I put this here yesterday. And now it's all full of debris and bits and everything else. So that's what's going to be in the bottom of your trap. Once they get these combs robbed out with this honey, then they go to the bottom and they start cleaning up those little bits and getting every little piece of residual resource, honey, scrap that they can get. That takes time. That type of activity in and out from your entrance at your swarm trap, again, is going to deter the scouts from even checking it out. They don't want to come into a fight. That's not what the scouts are out there looking for. They want a nice, quiet neighborhood with great potential and not this type of activity. If you see on the bottom of this trap You see the way they come out of there? They come out of there frantic. They're rolling. They're scrapping with each other. They're fighting. This isn't scouting. That's not what you want at your traps. Again, back to the beginning of the video, what I'm doing here is I'm cleaning out my frames, right? I'm making my frames completely dry of all resources, away from the catch site. If I had a swarm trap that had not caught before, I would rob it out in the trap, so don't get me wrong. Getting it robbed out in the trap is going to help scent that trap. It's going to help mimic that bees have lived in there before and make it even more appealing to your potential swarm catches. So I would rob it out in a trap. That's perfectly fine. I wouldn't have it a restricted hole, as far as like a 2 intersecting 1-inch holes or your normal swarm trap hole. That's too restrictive. That's too much traffic going through a small spot, and they will fight and they will kill each other. I like what's happening here because I'm not seeing a bunch of dead bees. That one dead bee out front, I believe, was one that was already in there from the dead out. I don't want to kill bees during this process, and if you are going to rob them out in a swarm trap, kind of maybe tilt your lid, give them an access point of some other areas. That's why I have this up on shims, so that they have access completely to the whole bottom. They don't have to fight with each other. You can even see this one up front here on that big piece of wax. They're not even in the trap. They're cleaning it out. Also, I have no idea how that big piece of wax got all the way out there. They drug that thing all the way out there. That just goes to show you how frantic this robbing activity is. Completely different than scouting. And in my opinion, this type of activity at your swarm trap is not a good idea, especially at your catch site. You don't want to hang swarm traps with resources in them because you have this, and this can go on for weeks. If this is going on, you're not getting scouts, in my opinion. Even if you are lucky enough to get a scout to discover the trap, their consensus is going to be this is not a good home. Would you move into a neighborhood that was this frantic, that was this violent? Neither will your bees. So you want to make it calm and peaceful, and you want that dry comb. Only one comb, I suggest. Don't put multiple combs in your swarm trap as far as the brood comb. It opens up risk as far as pest and loss. And also you need to keep in mind that every catch, you need another bait comb to go back in that trap to get that cast off or secondary swarm. So this is just an example of if you hung a swarm trap with resources, the type of activity you would get. Also, this is my process for drying the comb, making it pristine, dry, free of all resources, so that when I hang it in a tree, I can immediately start having scouts and not opportunistic foragers and robbers. So sometime tomorrow evening, I'll take this down and check to make sure that the combs are completely dry and robbed out, and then I'll have my 6 frames that I need to start my swarm catching season. I still need to come up with more frames, as I said before, to replace these if I'm fortunate enough to catch. I always want to have a bait comb in reserve for every trap. Also, keep in mind every catch requires 10 frames more, right? So you need 5 more frames to pack out your colony if you're running 5 frames in your swarm trap, and you need 5 more frames to put in your swarm trap again. That's including 1 bait comb. So it's frame season. I'm going to be building a lot of frames here soon, because it's the one thing that I always forget, that I need frames. Every catch requires 15 frames, right? 5 to start the catch, 5 to pack out your deep if you catch it, and 5 more to bait it again. That process is crazy if you're running a lot of traps. So again, don't be confused. Robbing, not scouting. Looking forward to a great season. I hope your bees are well. Thanks for watching.